Okay, sorry, I got distracted. I'm at a public park. Alright, so why am I talking about the jail library project? I don't know if I got cut off when I was trying to say we moved it from, after 2 years of being inside the jail, we moved it to, with the sheriff's permission, to the dormitories where people lived for work release. And so that was actually a really great step, because we were able to talk more freely with people and was able to have book clubs with the women and have like a documentary night where I would show a documentary and then we would sit around and talk about it. I always brought like stuff on like drug addiction or, like whatever pertinent type issues or, childhood trauma. Like, I'm so sick of saying that word. I feel like I say that word like in every fucking video I make. Anyway, the whole point is, the whole purpose of that program, it was called Pages to Prisoners, was to be of a service to the community and give back, our free time and of our free work, though some of it was under the umbrella of my position at that time in my career. But then it's such a huge endeavor that had to do a ton of it on my own time, because everything's free. So you have to get sponsors and you have to go around and collect all the materials, and like you can't buy anything. So it makes it like you have to work so much harder. And then I got to tour with some academics that I knew, got to tour some other facilities in the state and see how they did their libraries in incarcerated environments. And it was just all a big learning project, really, I think it was a learning project on how far reform can go, and also that you can do charity and still have a realistic viewpoint. Like, all you're doing, in my opinion, is putting it out there, and if people don't want to use the services, or it's not interesting to them, or they think it's dumb, or or like you have people in the community who are like sending you hate mail because they think it's wrong to do things for people who have done bad things, which I understand, having been a victim of a violent crime. Of course, that didn't happen until after I had finished that project. Actually, that is what finished that project, because I couldn't handle being in it. I needed a break from those kind of environments. But I still believe in it. You get a lot of hate because people are like, people think it's wrong, like to their religious or political or social opinions. They think you're promoting. They think you're giving pleasure to people who should be punished, and so they're against it. But my point was always that, I said this, in the different talks I gave about it, is that I felt like a lot of people don't read or are not interested in, improving themselves, really, for whatever reason. It's actually none of my business why they don't want to do those things, just because I was born a reader and I'm obsessed with improving myself because of my shitty past. That's, my prerogative. it's not my business to force that ideology on everybody I come across, it's just not, it's not cool to do that to people. So, but my ideology was always like, there's a lot of people who have a lot of different reasons why they don't read. And sometimes it's because they're illiterate. Sometimes it's because they're always working their asses off and they don't have time to, nourish themselves or do something that requires a lot of mental input because they're mentally exhausted, or they have so many responsibilities, it's impossible. Or, like I said, they have other interests that are different and have nothing to do with reading. But what I learned was, I learned this from when I was in drug rehab for myself, like 30 years ago. Is I learned that when you're in an environment, forced to be in an environment, a mandatory environment that you don't want to be in, you'll do a lot of stuff that you didn't normally do. Like, you'll be surprised at how interested you are in things that you normally in real life wouldn't give a flying F about, because you don't have anything else to do, okay? Like, it's boring. And when you're not doing your mandatory things that you have to do, your mind wanders, and it's like you don't have anything to fill it up. You don't have your friends, family, you don't have your your normal job, you don't have anything, you don't have your freedom, you don't have literally anything to distract you from improving your mind, really, or losing yourself in a good book. You just don't, So my prerogative about it was always like, this might be the one chance, the one time that these people are, like this community, I don't like to say these people, that sounds terrible, but people in this position per se would have the inclination to want to read something and would want to invest the time and effort into doing that. So this is like the moment to capitalize on that and do something rehabilitative, because I'm sorry, I don't think anybody's ever gone and murdered or raped somebody based on reading a book. I think that's something psychological or behavior based. I don't think because you sat around and read a fucking novel for the weekend that's gonna like turn you into like some kind of criminal. I think that's silly. So that's just the way I came up with that motivation to keep doing it, even when there was a lot of obstacles, is because I was just like, I gotta do it. At this, this is a moment of a particular moment in people's lives, and I want to capitalize on it to do something forward, to do something. And like, honestly, the Christian fiction and Bible study stuff, that went like bananas. People were crazy about that. And then other stuff people were super into was like a lot of, like, everybody wanted the 48 Rules of Power. Everybody wanted The Child Called It was like the number one book choice. And then people wanted what was the other one? The Art of War by the one with the samurai. I don't know. Like, it's just, it was interesting what people chose. And then we would try to get books in Spanish for people who didn't have any, because there was like nothing for them there in their language. And then unfortunately a lot of those donations were like picture books for children. It was not lucrative, but I did the best I could. Um, people not having glasses was one of the biggest problems, so it would get a lot of large print on purpose for that reason. But anyway, what does this have to do with fame, and what does this have to do with what I'm talking about? Why am I talking about this? I'm talking about this because I'm trying to prove the point that there is such a thing as putting yourself out there and trying to be influential and gain a following because you have a message that's bigger than yourself that you're trying to relay. And that is different from self-seeking, wanting to be famous is because you want people to know your name and you want people to like you and you want people to give you offers that are like glamorous and highly desired. I mean, yes, we all would like to live better, have more money. I personally would love to get out of this shithole of a place I'm living and like start over somewhere else. That is like my dream. But, you know, the circumstances have changed so much that it's not as easy as it used to be. What else? I don't really okay, like I looked it up and like I've had 38K viewers on my Threads account just in the last 30 days. But on my Instagram where I want to do a live, I've only got I only have 150 followers. So it's like I don't get it. Like this is a lot of I don't understand a lot of this. Maybe because I don't give a shit. I think that's the problem, is I actually never put in the effort or mental gymnastics to like understand all these algorithms and analysis. I think I've got like 63 subscribers to my channel, and that I've had that channel for like, I don't know, a year or something. I don't know. Like, yeah, I mean, I don't know. What am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that you can't get your message out and make a difference and do anything if you don't have an audience. Like, it's just not lucrative. It's not gonna affect anybody if you're just sitting around talking to yourself and you have like two subscribers. This is not gonna go anywhere, you know. It's not gonna do anything. But I think a lot of like whatever I'm doing wrong, like whatever is like holding me up from like doing what I wanted to do, is my message that I think is from, you know, it's about overcoming trauma, and it's about how God was the only reason I'm still alive, and the only reason that I'm sitting here talking to you, and the only reason that I've ever been happy. Because if you looked at my life circumstances, yes, I've been successful in several big ways in the past, you know, if you look at the whole picture. But at the same time, I've been totally screwed, you know, like totally. It's like a shitty story with really bad, like, chapters that are shameful and full of misery and horror. I mean, they just are. You can't dress it up any other way. So if I were to have relied on what I looked like to other people socially, or like in society, or like how people would sum up who I am based on what they saw, like, I mean, come on. It's like, first of all, most people don't even know the real shit about people anyway, because people just tell you what they want you to know. I mean, unless they're a big blabbermouth, you're just not going to really know someone like for real unless they let you. It's just not going to happen, you know. What I'm trying to say is, I know, and I know I'm going to sound crazy and people are going to think I'm weird, but I personally know 100% on a stack of a Bible, Torah, whatever, Quran, that I am only alive and thriving in whatever small way I am because God wants me to. God wants me to help other people and to at least get the message out there that if you put in the effort and willingness, and I hate to use the word hard work, so it's just like trauma. It's like, if anybody, it's like we just keep using the same words all the time for the same stuff, and it sounds really boring. But if you want to improve at least your mood and your attitude, and make yourself be more engaged with just the little things in life, just the act of being alive. Like, I know the secret to that because I've had to fight many, many, many things, battles, over and over and over again to resurrect it every time I got beat down to the ground, and it looked like there was like no hope, like why I should just throw in the towel and just be like bitter or defeated. But I just don't believe I don't believe that's why God put me on this earth, to be miserable and to not leave the planet better than I found it. I just don't believe that's true. I don't believe it's true at all. And like, there have been many, many times where I've been like, well, then why did I have to have, why the schizophrenic mother? Why the 2 rapes? Why the brain injury? Why the robbery? Why the, why the disability? Like, what the hell? Like, it's hard to be like a Pollyanna, with some of this shit. And to think that I still, like, it's going to be 8 years and, like, I don't know, 9 days now or something of my anniversary of when I got the brain injury. And it's like, I still have not gotten my life straightened out the way I had hoped, But once again, especially the first 3 years, it was like, I just wanted to be able to get out of bed in the morning and not want to kill myself. It was so bad. I've never had those kind of thoughts, but I'm just saying, like, I really had nothing except my kids and my relationship with God to, like, feel like, why am I still here? Like, what is the point? I'm losing everything, or I've lost most everything that was important to me. So, like, what felt like a failure, felt like a failure. And even though I knew I was a victim of circumstances, blah, 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 I still had been making a lot of poor decisions in my life, especially at that time, based on a million different reasons. And so a lot of me did blame myself and did be like, well, if you hadn't been doing X, Y, and Z, you wouldn't have been in the position to get pistol whipped, to be brain damaged. Like, I don't know. I think the human mind seeks to always resolve uncertainty and to close the gaps. Like, if you've ever noticed when you have relationships that they don't have closure, there's no, like, tying up of all the details. It's like your mind will just keep drifting to it over and over and over again, even though you're like you don't have the information to to make anything make sense. So like, why would you think about it? But I definitely think about that with my biological mom. It's like, like, how do you resolve all the damage with someone who's incapable of having a normal conversation, like, whatsoever? Like, that's like not possible at any level, period. And in actual circumstances, when the worst of the worst happened, she actually seemed like she was possessed by something else. And again, I know I sound crazy, I know I sound weird, but that was not a human being that was attacking me. Like, I am so serious. That was a deranged, I don't know what, something evil. Like that was not. I've been attacked by other human beings, with the rapes and with the robbery, assault situations, and been verbally attacked 1,000 times by being in shitty, toxic relationships, whatever, and nothing like that was like what I saw with my own 2 eyes with that woman. I mean, and I know she wasn't herself, and I know I never really knew her, because how can you know somebody who is severely mentally ill and violent? You honestly can never really know them. And I know that is the difference between me and my grandmother, and that was why my grandmother and I always fought about my mom, is because she knew my mom for 19 years as a normal person, a broken person for sure, because my mom had polio. She had a deformed arm. She was severely bullied because she had to wear a back brace in high school, and she lived in this conservative town, which is a nightmare if you're an artistic person, and makes you feel like you have nobody that shares your interests. So it's like stifling. So it's like, and I'm not saying like everybody, I mean, I have like book club and friends and like, prior work associations that were all intellectually fulfilling and emotionally providing, but that's different than like living somewhere where you're like excited every day to get up, and you want to like, you're happy looking around you, and you feel like whatever you're about is something that's celebrated in that community. Like, that is not the case here. I am definitely the odd duck out. I'm definitely not everyone's cup of tea around here, because it's a very conservative or Republican conforming to like certain standard of how people see things here. It's just not. It's no San Francisco. It's no New York City. Let's just say that, because I've lived in those places and it was a completely different experience. Anyway, what was my point with that? My point is that all I've ever wanted was to have a life of meaning, and for my life to mean something, and to have work that provided something that wasn't important to other people. Like, not important in like I want to be important, but important in that like it was something that was nourishing and useful to other people. It was of value, like, and it was something that I thrived in and enjoyed and was naturally gifted in. That's all I ever wanted. And of course, to have a loving family, like, those are the things that I wanted. And I really don't care about, like, people are always like, oh, you know, would you ever, you know, like, people are always talking about fame and money and making it and being, you know, acknowledged online as like some like superstar or somebody people are like really into. But it's like, I only want that to be able to push my message to, which is really God's message, which is really, like, I believe in logotherapy, which is really just my purpose. And I like really mean that. Like, I want enough money to be able to pay my bills, deal with, you know, my medical issues, and if I want to travel or live somewhere else or start a new life, I want to be able and be able to provide for my adult children in some way. Like, those are the things I would want money for. I don't give a flying crap about having a rich environment or any kind of luxury lifestyle in any way. Like, I know how to look good with little, so I don't need all that shit. It's just not necessary. Like, my grandmother was a gorgeous woman who knew everything about style and beauty and self-care, and she instilled in me those abilities. And so, like, I don't need anything to be a label or, you know, yes, I want a reliable, you know, of course, attractive if possible vehicle or home, or apartment. Like, I'm not a liar. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, I'm fine with living, you know, in a place that's like filthy in a bad neighborhood and, you know, having no transportation or a car that breaks down all the time. No, that is not true. I do want those basic, I guess you would call them luxury things, because many people don't even have running water or electricity and live in governments that could come in and just take them away and put them in prison for nothing or torture them. So, like, yeah, I'm living it up. I've got what you call first world problems, so I acknowledge that. But that's also because I've traveled a lot of places. Been to Mexico 3 times. I know I did Habitat for Humanity for decades and went to a lot of environments. You know, I got to meet Jimmy Carter and his wife, which was super cool, and have seen, and then, you know, with the social work and the community service with the library work and choosing to do education and methadone clinics and stuff like that. Like, I know what real misery is. I'm not blind. I know that every day that I wake up in my life, I'm like a queen. I'm lucky. I'm like privileged. I know that. I don't doubt that. But I don't really also understand this insane obsession people have with being famous. Like, to me, if I would only want to be famous to, like I said, get resources and an audience so that I could tell my story about how God lifted me out of the gutter and saved my life over and over and over again, even when I didn't want to be saved, even when I fought against the right thing to do, even when I was a prodigal son and was like a shitty version of myself, you know. Like, he still kept me from dying or being compromised in such a way that I would have no life quality. I mean, that's apparent. Like, that's apparent. Like, that is... There's no way to hear my story and that not be glaringly obvious. Because it's just, how else? Like, literally, how else? Certainly wasn't my own... Yes, I think I'm a badass, and I'm stubborn as hell, and I will claw myself out of whatever, and will study myself into a better circumstance at any moment. My willpower is kind of rock solid, you know. That's just how I was built, you know. I didn't really do anything to be like that. It's just naturally how I am. I was like that as a little kid, and I think it's from, you know, living with, like, somebody is trying to, like, take me out all the time. My own mother, you know, like, it motivates you to be like, well, I better get my shit together, because obviously people looking out for me are like, I don't think they have the answer, you know. Like, I think I need to figure this out myself. So it's like, I would always go to the library and have like a stack of like 27 books when I was even 8, just like trying to like learn myself out of hell. Like, that was my it was like, I will figure out the map out of the demonic universe I find myself in. Like, I will learn what to do. Like, I'm not staying like this. I refuse to live like this, you know. Because then I got adopted by my grandparents, and they had money, and I had a nice place to live, and, you know, they traveled, and they, you know, paid for my college and stuff. It's like, I had a lot of like silver spoon moments, but these were also the people who were like making me constantly go back and see my mom, who was like literally trying to kill me all the time. So I don't know, like, it wasn't ideal, you know. It wasn't good. So it's like, every time I'd be like, okay, well, finally out of that highly dangerous situation, I can relax and maybe enjoy life now. And then it'd be like, something else would come up, and I'd be like, wow, looks like I'm back in the same situation, like, over and over and over and over, over and over and over and over again, to the point where you're just like, I'm getting the like subconscious message from the universe to like fucking give up. That's the message I'm getting. I'm getting like, you know, stop the cameras. Like, this is a like epic fail. Okay, it's not gonna have a good ending, and definitely, you know, everybody has those moments in their life where they're like, you know, their marriage fails, or like, you know, they lose their job, or like, you know, they have financial burdens that are like, you're looking at like what you're making, you're looking at your bills, and you're like, wow, these don't, you know, like, this is not working together. This isn't gonna happen. Like, this is like, I can't work with this, you know. Like, everybody has these times, or like when your body fails and you're like, okay, well, I didn't see that coming, you know, like, everybody. But I just, like I said, I believed I was here for a purpose, and I believed that even broken, damaged, and whatever my personal life has been, that I still have value. I still have something to offer. I still can make something of myself. It's not over till it's over, you know. It's not over till I'm dead. So I'm going to go with that, you know. If my grandmother can have one child who died at, you know, in his 40s, who was an amazing person, who overcame a disability, become a successful neurologist in a big city, and he died in a fire, and like, she lost him, and then she has her only daughter, has told by doctors that, you know, specialists in the field, that her only daughter is permanently a paranoid schizophrenic who with violent tendencies, who is literally not going to get better no matter what she does. Like, literally, that's the end. That's it. If that woman can get up every day and make herself look beautiful and pursue her interests and hobbies, and she was a volunteer swim instructor for the disabled for 20 plus years. I mean, like, she had to raise kids and be a housewife, so she didn't get to go to college or anything. She did go to Chicago Institute of Art and take classes, and she was a phenomenal painter and artist. And like, she's still every day, no matter how many people she had to take care of, because remember, she had to take care of me because my parents couldn't because of mental illness. So it's like 62 or something, she had to raise a troubled child and still have to deal with my mom and my grandfather got Alzheimer's. And like, if this woman could still be a gorgeous, intelligent, charming, positive person, then like, surely I can drag it out of my ass to be, and that's what I do. That's what I commit to. I commit to, like, it doesn't matter how shitty the external situation is, like, I'm going to be thankful, and I'm still gonna do my best, and the chips will just fall where they fall. And like, I didn't give myself this life, so I mean, my mom was told absolutely to not have children 100%, like, and she hid it. Like, she didn't even tell anybody. That's why I was premature. My dad had to like deliver me from reading a library book because my mom was so paranoid that she thought the FBI and the Empress of China or something was going to be at the hospital. So she refused prenatal care. She refused to go to a hospital when I was born. I was premature. I didn't have any care of any neonatal, nothing, like 0%. And still I lived and thrived. Why? I don't know, But she didn't tell anybody she was even having a baby. So nobody came and helped because nobody knew it was happening. So, this is before cell phones. And like, I don't think a paranoid schizophrenic's really going to be calling you a lot anyway and filling you in on their details of their life. So I know I'm a miracle. I know I'm here for a reason. I do think it's weird when people want fame for the sake of fame, because to me, if I was a famous person or was to become one, I 100% guarantee you, unless God saved me, I would be dead within 18 months. I know it, because I've had so many stalkers. It's just a normal woman, unknown woman in a regular Joe town. I used to have stalkers all the time, like, especially when I was doing library service, and they would leave like roses on my windshield of my car with long messages and they'd follow me around. It's just weird fucking shit. So can you imagine if I was famous? Can you imagine how many people would be interested in, I don't know what, doing whatever with me? I just think it would be like, a free-for-all of weird, dangerous behavior. So no, I don't want to be famous, because except to promote my message, personally, I wouldn't want to be, because John Lennon was famous, Selena was famous, and the list goes on and on of all these people who were targeted, especially people who were into social justice. I mean, everybody who carries a message to like help humanity, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, JFK, like anybody who like tries to do something for the greater good, Gandhi, I mean, they're all like targeted, treated like shit. People, Princess Diana, they won't leave them alone. I don't want to be someone like Princess Diana who's sitting in a car dying and a bunch of random idiots are like taking her photos until the ambulance arrives because they can make money off them. I think of fame, when I think of fame, I think of people, especially women. Do you know how many women movie stars were taken advantage of by managers or lovers or husbands or whatever, or their kids turned on them or whatever because of fame? It's literally most of them. And it's happened to a lot of men too. Like, it's like people, when it comes to money or being sexually desired or something, people are like loco crazy. Like they lose their shit. They just will do anything. They are jealous or envious, or people hate you. They don't even know you. They hate you. I mean, like, I just feel like it would be like an extra layer of danger. Like, danger. I would have to have like the biggest bodyguard ever. Like 24/7. And then it still would probably happen, you know. But anyway, that's my fear of, and honestly, since the brain injury, a lot of times I know it's an excuse. I know it's an excuse, but sometimes I'm embarrassed to be seen, to be honest with you, because I'm so despondent about how my life has turned out. You know, I'm depressed about it. It's depressing. It's depressing to have been amazingly talented at something and to have it ripped away from you forever. Like, I will go to my grave never getting to be the person I was. Like, that is what is going to happen. Like, that is how it's gonna be. Like, I always think of this Twilight Zone episode where I think he's an old man or something, and it's like he finally can retire and like do whatever he wants, and like I think he's a book owner, and like his dream is he has this huge library of books in his home of all the things he's never had time to read because he was a business owner and he had to work all the time and he never had a chance to actually read. Because I know from being a librarian that everybody comes in and they're like, oh, you're just reading all day. It's like, heck no, I'm not. I'm working. Like, it's a job. You know, I am not able to read on the job and also be good at my job. That is not something that is like, that doesn't happen, you know. That's called sliding into bankruptcy, you know, getting fired for failing, you know, because you're not doing your job. You're like, that's not how it works. But anyway, okay, so in this Twilight Zone episode, this old man, he's like, can't wait. And then right when he retires and closes up his shop, like, I'm not even kidding you, an earthquake happens and it crushes his glasses. And I guess because it's like the Twilight Zone or something, it's like he's in an alternative type of universe or something where it's like he can't go get new glasses. Like, I don't know if it's because of the earthquake. I don't remember the episode because I watched this when I was a kid. It's like he can't get another pair of glasses. Like, that's not happening. And he has this whole library and he's like, oh my god, I can finally read, but I can't read because I can't see, and I can't read, I can't see because I can't read. So there goes that. You know, before like audiobooks, this is like in the 50s or something, and cell phones and, you know, iPads and all that. And so like like this is sick, but sometimes I think about that with my own reading ability. It's like, well, I finally am not working full time. Oh, there's so much I want to it's all these things I want to read. And it's like, I look at my library and I'm like, wow, I can't read any. I actually literally physically can't read any of this shit. Like, so like I've been downsizing some of it because it's like, what is the point? What am I holding on to these things just to make myself feel like garbage? Because that is happening. I do feel like garbage. Other people are just like, oh, you always have audiobooks. And it's like, well, only somebody who is a true, or, you know, I'm a writer. I'd love to write. And it's like, I feel like editing what you write is like part of being a writer. That's like, you have to do that. That is part of the process, is bettering your whatever you, I mean, the first thing you write is usually not good. You know, you have to keep doing it and then editing and rearranging it. Just like, how do you do that when you can only talk to text? Like, it's in that, your book is in the air. Your book is invisible. It's not, you can't I don't know, or maybe I just don't have the right devices. I don't know. And there you go back to technology. If I would learn technology, my disability would probably be a shitload easier. I don't know if I'd have the funds to buy all the things to do all this stuff, but I do know if I could learn to care about technology, I would learn to read and write better. This just makes sense. But then it's just like kind of a joke, because it's like a lot of times in order to learn a new skill, you actually have to read. I don't know. The whole thing is just stupid. But what was my point? Oh, yeah. This is my feel sorry for me segment. I don't feel like I can be the person I identify as myself. I mean, I'm still have the capacity to talk and to tell a good story and to be, social and all that. But I'm so fucked up from the robbery and the assault that it's like I have all these weird fears of like I have PTSD really bad. And I've tried to go to therapy and like get rid of it, or at least tone it down, but I still suffer deeply from it. And I know partially some of it's the brain injury, and it's just like there's parts of my brain that are they're just fucked up. They're just not, no amount of reason that's gonna fix it. That, like, for example, like if I go grocery shopping and I'm trying to put my groceries in the back of my car, and it's like people are walking, and I have my back turned, I break out into a sweat, and I like my hands shake, and I feel sick. It's like, and I'll turn around and be the person who's passing behind me that I'm like terrified about and about to throw up in the back of my car over. It'll be like a woman with a stroller. It's like, hello, Eva. You're afraid of shadows. You're afraid of, it's like, it's disappointing. It's disappointing. And I have some social anxiety, and I used to have, though I still love people and love to travel and do things and go new places, and like I love to be happy. But there's just a lot of things to adapt to after a disability, that even after being disabled for so many years, I still find myself doing things like making dumb decisions that it's like you can't do that anymore. What are you thinking? Like, once I spent, for me and one of my kids, to go to this, I think I paid $100 just to go to this foreign film festival. And then I was like, after it was a non-refundable ticket, then I was like, hello, like, hi, you can't read subtitles. You can't go to a foreign film festival. Like, you can't do it anymore. So it's stuff like that, where it's like constantly being like re-surprised by my own life, that I should know myself at this point. But it's like, it's so complex. Like, your brain is so complex, and a brain is such a weird thing, because literally a brain, to me, after I've done all this research on it, and talk to like neurologists and stuff, it's like brain can be just like, if it gets damaged, it's just like if a tornado hit this town, that happens because I'm in the Midwest, and one house is in perfect shape, like untouched, like maybe like a tile or something is screwed up on the roof, and then the next to it, that house is decimated. They lost everything. And that is exactly the way the brain is. So it's like, I didn't used to know this at all until I had the brain injury. But so like, I can have a part of my brain in communication that's completely destroyed, like that, it completely leveled. There's no way to build on it ever again. It's totaled, complete annihilation, and nothing can grow from it. Ashes. And then the next part of my brain that's part of communication, like talking and communicating and intellectual ideas and stuff, is perfectly fine. So it's confusing. It's like, and thinking that you can go into areas where there's other disabled people who you think can understand you, and you'll feel welcome, and like you won't feel completely dumb like you do when you're with able-bodied people, which is what I sometimes find myself feeling. That doesn't work. You know why? Because I have learned from my own experiences, this is really sad part of human nature, that there's actually, and I noticed this when I got over my drug addiction and was in a lot of 12-step meetings. I noticed this in that environment too. These environments, like I think it was at the blind center or low vision center where this happened to me. Environments where you think would be therapeutic and supportive, you know what the people do? You know what they do? They compete with each other. Like, I'm so serious. So you try to make new friends, but people will be like, oh, well, you can do this and I can't do that. It's like, yeah, your vision is you were born with a vision from birth. Like, I have an acquired brain injury, and that's why my vision is fucked up. Like, we are not the same. That is correct. You can do things I can't do. You just like don't have the cognitive perception because you can't understand my personal disability, because I was the only brain damaged person there to understand that. So like literally people will, I'm not even kidding you, compete with each other over their disabilities and not like each other because they think the other person has more than them or has a better ability than them or can do things they can't. So it's like they'll like secretly hate you. It's like I could not believe it with my own eyes that this shit was happening. And the same thing in like 12-step meetings, like not to like just that community in any way. It was like it really helped me to like overcome horrible things. But people would be competitive with their traumas. Like if they heard, if everybody went to go see somebody's like speaker story or, you know, like them giving their testimony, and people would literally be like, oh, that person's getting more attention for what happened to them. They're more popular because of like whatever bad things happened to them than I am. People don't give a shit about my story, or I'm not as popular, or I wish I had more bad things have happened to me so I had more attention. It's like, are you insane? And then this is what people do to each other. This is why sometimes I like to just be by myself, because my brain can't handle it. My damaged brain cannot, like, it's like I can't take any more like intake about how crappy people are to each other. Like, I just can't like deal with, this is what I have to work with. This is what's going on with people. Like, how am I ever gonna be somewhere where I can give support and receive support and it's like a healthy exchange? Like, how's that ever going to happen when this shit is going on? I don't understand. I expect that kind of behavior from like the bar scene or like from shitty dating apps or worlds or whatever. I don't expect that kind of behavior from supportive therapeutic communities, and yet that's what happens. Not entirely, but it's there in droves. And you know, that's that's another thing that's annihilating. It's like, don't fit into the able-bodied community. Don't fit into the disabled community. Don't fit in anywhere. You know, it kind of reminds me of like memoirs I've read of women who were biracial, who were like, didn't fit in with the white community, didn't fit in with the black community, didn't fit in anywhere. It's like, where are you supposed to go? There's like nowhere to go. And what you can't change yourself if it's a external thing that people are judging you on. Like, I can't undisable myself, and I'm not gonna like be less than to fit in to a community where people are like not trying to improve their situation, and they're just sitting around and complaining about it. I'm not interested in that. If you're not trying to make it better, I'm not going to complain. I complain about my disability, yes, but I don't sit around and complain with other people and just be like, oh, well, I guess that's it. I guess there's nothing I can do. I guess this is it. It's like, no, it's not it. I'll be fighting this till the day I'm dead. I know I won't get the life I want, but, you know, maybe this just wasn't in the cards. You know, I'm supposed to do something with this situation, which goes back to technology, which goes back to popularity, which goes back to everything we're talking about. So how am I going to tie this in with the Bible? Okay, I'm going to tie it in with Jesus talked about, like, basically fame, or like wanting to be famous, or wanting to be liked by man, or to be the it person, you know, where everybody wants you, or, you know, that kind of thing, or like the most popular, sought after whoever. Like Jesus basically in the Bible was like, well, you know, I was, at one time I went through the streets and everybody was praising me and praising me like for goodness, not for like a validating. Jesus doesn't care about validation, you know. And people were happy for me and with me, and they were putting out palms, like on Palm Sunday, as I walked through the center of the aisle like a bride, you know, on my donkey. But then he was like, but then then my own, you know, best friends, like, you know, Peter and Judas, like, betrayed me, turned me in front of my face, and, you know, sealed my, it had to happen that way. I mean, if there was no Judas, there'd be no crucifixion, and there'd be no, you know, like, sad to say, but in history and literature and even mythology and stuff, I mean, in the Bible also, like, some bad things were fated. They had to happen for the greater good, you know. So it's like, I don't know. So Jesus was like, so the same people also couldn't stand me and called me demonic when I tried to heal people, and, you know, crucified me and beat me and spit on me and mocked me and made jokes about me in front of my face while they tore me apart psychologically. Like, so how do you have faith in people, like, only, and not, you know, my Father or God? Like, because people will turn on a dime. You know, people are, the only thing you can predict about people is that human nature will eventually show its ugly face, and, you know, and it also has a beautiful face, and people are also beautiful and, you know, loving and interesting and full of light too, and they're also have short memories and have alternative motives and want to have transactional relationships. And people are everything, they're good and they're bad. And so in the Bible, it's like, okay, so that was Jesus's stance. And then also his stance was like with the Pharisees. There are a lot of Pharisees who actually, and there was actually even a Roman guard who came to Jesus and were like, yeah, we actually really believe in what you're doing. We think, think you actually, not that we believe in what you're doing. I don't think Pharisees said that, but they were like, wow, I believe what I just saw, that actually was real. Like, you really are special. You really are like the Son of God, But they would never publicly say that. They only privately would praise him, or privately would say, yeah, sorry, it's a bug. Yeah, I think you're real. They would say that to him, but they would never, ever, ever stand up for him in public or like him in any kind of public way, because that would be like their status, or who they cared about liking them in society. They would judge them for that, or they would lose their upstanding credibility, or they wouldn't be popular. They wouldn't get the same opportunities or advantages if they told the truth to others only. So that's why they didn't do it. Okay, so there's that. So those are the Jesus examples. Okay, and then if you look at David and Saul in the Bible, like I talk about that duo all the time, because it's like I find the most interesting parts of the Bible. Even I guess because it reads like, David's life is like a movie. David and Joseph are like, to me, like the number one most interesting stories in the Bible, or characters in the Bible, I shouldn't say stories, because the parting of the Red Sea, of course, and like there's a lot of other, or the burning bush, there's a lot of other stories in the Bible I'm obsessed with. But with Saul and David, Saul, when somebody said, when David was helping Saul, like singing to him and helping him with his demons and terrible mood swings, and I think he had manic depression. I'm not being proof of that, but anyway, he definitely had he was paranoid. He was paranoid. It was a paranoid personality disorder too. But anyway, David was healing to him. That's why he kept him around all the time. That's why, even when he was so jealous of him, he refused to stop having him come over and spend time with him, because David healed him just by his presence. David was like magical. And Saul needed the relief. He was tormented. He was not happy. And he didn't have a pure soul like David. He had a competitive character. He had a deep desire to be number one. He wanted to be king forever, and he wanted everything that came with that, which he was anointed, so it's not like he shouldn't have had it, but it's like his decision making with people was like unbelievably biased. So anyway, what was my point about this, about fame? I think with David and Joseph, because with Joseph, his family grew to hate him. Even his father didn't. He loved him, but he made him like a scapegoat, really, by making that gift of the coat of many colors, because he knew the other brothers were jealous of David, or I'm sorry, of Joseph. But yet he still like made a symbol that would like promote that even more. And then when Joseph told his dad and his brothers the dreams about him being above them, it was just a dream about like, not above them, but like where they bowed down to him in a dream. It was just a dream, and they were all like sheaves of wheat. They weren't even real people. And it was like symbolic, right? Like even his dad and mom were like mad at him, you know, like they displeased, you know. And it's like, what I'm trying to say is like being popular or favored oftentimes spills over into being targeted and treated unfairly because other people want what you have, which is the favor. Or like, I don't get with David and Saul, that must have just been a Saul like problem, because maybe it was because of his mental illnesses, but like they were both anointed. So that even goes to show you, like, they both had the anointing from God. So there really is like no reason that Saul should have been jealous of David. I mean, he was jealous of him because he was young and handsome, but you know, like, sorry, but Saul was a drinker. He didn't take care of he didn't take care of himself. So it's like, yeah, he probably could have been more youthful looking himself if he would have like invested in like some self-care, but Saul was like, he was all about like external pleasures and desires and validation. Like they were not on the same, they didn't believe in the same, they didn't have the same values. So they were both anointed. So it was so bad that somebody said out loud, like one of the people after they were in a battle said something like, Saul has killed or conquered 1,000 people or something, and then David has conquered 10 of 10,000. And like the minute Saul heard that, it was like, okay, that's it. I hate this guy. Like, I can't stand this guy. Like, fuck this guy. But he still had him come over all the time and play music for him because he needed it, because he needed the healing. So it's like, well, you know, if you hate him so much, why don't you stop spending time with him? That might be something you could entertain. Like, perhaps you shouldn't absorb yourself in his essence constantly by your own volition. Maybe that would be something to think about. But it's like he was getting something out of him, so he kept him around, you know. But even when he threw a spear at him, tried to kill him, it didn't work, and then he had to flee, and then he actually was like best friends with, I think it was Saul's son, I want to say, named Jonathan, and like Jonathan helped him a whole lot to like not get killed. But it's like he had to like go run and live in caves and like be a fugitive for like, I think it was 7 years or something like that, some time under 10 years. But it was like he couldn't relax or sleep at night without, you know, one eye open, because Saul was always trying to kill him or send other people to kill him or whatever. And once, just randomly, they both ended up in the same cave. Like, I think if I'm right, was Saul sleeping there and David randomly went in the cave for shelter, you know, because they were always like traveling with men to like battles or whatever. So, they would sleep in caves because it had shelter. So anyway, David randomly comes across Saul. He's asleep. And this is a person who's been like making him almost get killed like every day. And he can't even like go back to his own town and be around his friends and family because of Saul and Saul's persecution. So, of course, David is like a trained warrior and he has a weapon. And there was his chance to like take out Saul and like make his life easy, right? Because they're both warriors, right? So it's like, I mean, if you're a soldier and you kill somebody, even if it's not during battle, like probably you could get away with that on some level. I mean, or he would just disappear and nobody would know he's the one who did it. But it's like David didn't do it. He chose not to do that. And it wasn't just once he spared Saul's life. It was more than once. Where he had the chance to like get revenge and he wanted no part of it. He didn't want anything to do with that. And the reason is because he knew that Saul was anointed, and he knew that anointing by God, he had it, Samuel had it, David had it, like David knew that meant you were handpicked by God to fulfill a certain purpose in your lifetime. And so he refused to take away, even though Saul was abusing his own calling, he refused to take away his mission in life because he thought that was his moral code. That was, and like, I mean, David screws up later, with his moral code. I mean, nobody in the Bible, like, there's not a single person who, besides Jesus, who's like, doesn't make ridiculous, heinous errors, They all do. Men and women, they all make a ton of like shitty decisions with bad consequences, and they all make a lot of amazing, incredible choices that it's like, how could somebody be such a good person? Like, they're literally all of it's all in there. That's why I love Bible stories, because Bible stories show you that, like, literally we're not the only ones who struggle with finances, illness, relationships, survival, doubt, despair. Why are we here? How can I have a good life? Like, political, emotional injustices, like, it's all there. And so it makes me feel better, because it's like, well, I'm not the only person who's ever felt this way. And if you read I think James Baldwin said that. I think that's a quote by James Baldwin, a famous African-American writer. I think he was also gay, who said, you think you're the only one on this planet who's ever struggled with X, Y, and Z. And he said, all you do is go read a book, and it's like obvious that you are not the only person who's had these feelings. And in that is great relief, right? Because it makes you feel like you're not alone, and there must be a solution, because other people have overcome these things in, like I said, in a novel, or like in a Bible story. Well, anyway, I think there was something else I was going to say about story about Paul in the Bible. Paul's kind of a interesting, confusing character to me, because he persecuted and killed Christians, and then he turned around and went around and saved people. It's like he has such a bizarre dichotomous life. Opposing life. Like, his life is like a contradiction. He's a very controversial character, but it's like, I think in terms of him, I don't think it's any, like, him being popular and being famous for what he did with the public, that actually landed him in jail all the time. And he was a prisoner, like, a lot. And he wasn't, like, even just a free prisoner, like, where he could just have a cell and just, not like that's, like, a great life. But, he didn't even have freedom to just be an autonomous person in a locked room box or whatever, because at one point, I think it was for 2 years, he had to be chained to a guard, and the guards would switch up constantly. So it'd be all the people of the kingdom or whatever at one point or another, but somehow, if they were in a position of dominance or superiority, would end up stuck with him, like, couldn't even go to the bathroom by himself, you know what I mean? So it's like his fame or notoriety, caused him to suffering, really, because if he had just been nobody, nobody would have had to, he wouldn't have been important enough to watch and monitor every minute of his behavior. Like, they monitored him, like, every single second of his life. He was constantly being monitored by others, like, nobody would ever leave him alone. And so, there's good and bad there's a bad to every good. And I know this because, my grandparents, my grandfather was a doctor, and they played a stock market, and they had some wealth. And my mom's brother at one point told me that they had spent, literally, like, I'm not even kidding you, $500,000 or $1 million of their money trying to fix my mom. And we're talking about, the 70s, or, you know what I mean? Like, where $1 million was like $8 million, like, it was different. It was so much more. And it all was for nothing. Like, it never did anything. Like, she never got 1 second better. Like, not, like, I mean, maybe it kept her alive, but alive to what? Be miserable? To suffer longer? I don't know. Like, to make everyone else suffer longer? I don't know. It's like, I've seen people who have money be miserable. And you know why they're miserable? Because everybody thinks that money, if they only had enough money, they would be happy. And, like, that's the only reason they're not happy. Well, I could tell you 100% that's not true. Do they have comfort? Do they have relief from daily anxiety and toil? Do they have freedom to go places and own things that other people would be so thrilled to even have a tiny drop of? Yes, they have all of that. Do they have the ability to not have pain and suffering? No, they don't. You can't buy love. You can't buy health. There are things in life that people desire, and they can't be bought. They can't be bought with popularity, fame, money. And in fact, you're more miserable if you have the fame and money and you still can't solve the problem. That's what makes, like, stars, like, do drugs and, like, act like idiots, because they realize, holy shit, I thought if I had this, all my problems would be solved. I thought I would have the power to control my life and be a winner. Like, everybody says I'm a winner. Like, why aren't I a winner? And it's because there's things that money can't buy. Like, the end, Not to say that I would, of course, be thrilled if I had less financial stress. Yes, especially in my condition. That would be, like, amazing. I wouldn't say no. But am I going to be bitter and unhappy and hating my life because it's probably not my destiny? No, I'm not. And I refuse. I like literally refuse. The thing that does get me down is that I won't be able to accomplish my goals and my dreams because of this disability. That is what gets me down. That I don't have access to the pleasures in life I used to have. And I'm never going to have abilities that I used to take for granted, like that's a shut door. And the dumb thing is, when it was open, I appreciated it, I think, but I didn't appreciate it enough to think, oh, something could go wrong. So I did not purchase disability insurance, which I think would have only been like $1,000 a year, which if you're making a good salary as a professional is totally doable. But did it ever occur to me that I would ever be in a situation of being disabled? 100% zero. No. So I signed my own shitty life sentence by making an error of being prideful and thinking nothing like that could happen to me, because I thought, oh, well, I've already had, drug addict husband, I already had schizophrenic mom, I already had I've already been raped, I was just like, I'm not going to be disabled too. I mean, that's just too much, Surprise! Surprise! And that's where pride gets you. That's where arrogance gets you. When you think it can't happen to you, you think, no. I know how my life's going to go. I'm certain about certain things. That's like duplicitous sentence. That's the thing about life. You can never be certain about good or bad things. An amazing miracle can always come in your life. An amazing disaster that can level you can also happen to you. You are not untouchable on either level. And that's what I try so hard. Because I have a very negative mindset, believe it or not, about my future. And I tell myself, I can still fall in love with a good person and have an amazing relationship. I can still be worthy of having meaning in my life and doing something productive that's fulfilling with a career. I can still get myself out of living somewhere I hate. I can still do these things. I just apparently don't have the gumption or discipline to get there today. But there's always tomorrow. Maybe I will. Buckle down and get a better life here somehow. It's all in the cards. But if I don't like the cards, I can play a different hand. And I don't know, man. I guess this video's done.